Right now, I want to welcome in from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership on Twitter at DRGOSAF. Dr. Robert Young is with us. Dr. Young, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Cam.
Good talking with you again.
Great to be with you.
Got to say, though, this is nothing in New York surprises me anymore, not after the passage of the SAFE Act and how that has been implemented or not. But this is a really, really interesting case study at drgo.us. Dr. Anthony Ferraioli, who is a psychiatrist in Saratoga County, New York, writes about his experience trying to get his handgun permit there in the county. And I mean, the word that came to mind as I'm reading this, Dr. Young, is it's Kafkaesque. I mean, it's just this crazy situation where you do everything you're supposed to do, including providing character references, but that's still not enough for you to exercise your right to keep and bear arms.
It is. This is very bizarre, Cam. And I say that even being a New York resident and experiencing stuff like this around me all the time. It's a little bit more bizarre than average in Saratoga County. What I did not realize until this came to light was that they require that you seek your target permit before you are allowed to apply for a carry permit. To my knowledge, that's not the case anywhere else, even in this state. And I don't know exactly why they can do that, but they do. So Dr. Ferraioli, who comes from downstate, moved up to the partially Great North here, and discovered he loved shooting. He was a new convert to the shooting sports. He treats a lot of people who happen to be into that. He's made good friends doing that, and so he decided he'd like to move on from just shooting rifles to target shooting a pistol. And the application was all in order. He had 3 references, which are good friends, so he knew that they were good references.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was...
And he took his 5-hour basic pistol safety course. He took the written exam that was required by the county, right? He did all of those things to apply for his pistol permit. Yeah.
Right. The steps you take vary from state to state, but he did all that was required here. Now, I'd like to believe this was just a bureaucratic bollocks because he didn't even know he was denied for several months, and only because he called and asked how it was going. And at that point, as he tells us in his article, a very embarrassed clerk informed him that he had been turned down and forwarded him the letter documenting that, which was dated later than, was dated earlier, so much earlier that the appeals period had already expired by the time it was mailed to him. Something's very wrong with that. If I were of a conspiratorial frame of mind, I would wonder if there was some personal agenda there somewhere.
I would wonder that too. And you know, again, a personal agenda on the part of the issuing authority. So he gets he doesn't get any response from the county. He calls up after 8 months and says, "What's going on with my permit?" I was told, you were denied, and then, yes, we'll get you this form. We'll send it out to you. There was an appeal process, but because he was never informed, he did not receive this notification in time for him to actually appeal this decision.
Exactly right, and exactly a big part of the point here.
Yeah. Now you get into this other issue of the timing of all of this. As he writes, Saratoga County requires that you wait a year after getting your target license before applying for the concealed carry permit. Then you have to take the prescribed concealed carry course from a specific vendor. If you pass that, you get your concealed carry permit. So there's this artificially imposed deadline that you cannot, again, you have to wait a year after getting your target license before you can apply to exercise your right to bear arms. So you can't exercise your right to keep and your right to bear contemporaneously. You get the right to keep first, and then you get the right to bear, which at this point, Dr. Young, doesn't really sound like we're talking about rights anymore.
Well, it never does anymore, does it, Cam? But it's worse here. And as I mentioned, this is very atypical statewide, even for us. that people are required to get a less authorized ownership to begin with before you can get your carry permit. In New York, by the way, this permit is what enables you to own a handgun. You can't even own it in your own home without getting some kind of permit. So it really is restrictive. And in most all of outstate New York, and that is everywhere but Westchester, the metro New York City area, and Long Island, getting a permit is still mostly a formality, even though legally we are a may-issue state. Almost everywhere around here, judges and sheriff's departments and anyone involved in the issuing authority recognizes that it should be a right, and it is generally supported by giving people the permits they need with along with meeting all the requirements, of course. It just takes a long time. But so this was news to me in Saratoga County, even that policy. But the way it was applied is completely wrong and should never be in these United States.
Absolutely. I mean, as Dr. Ferraioli says, he says, my parents came here on a boat from post-war Europe expressly in order that their children should not only have the opportunity to work hard and prosper, but so they would never face the arbitrary injustice that was all too familiar to them. I love my life. I'm grateful for it. I love being a physician. I'm honored that my patients entrust me with their lives with the endorsement of the state of New York. I took the Hippocratic Oath again recently, my nephew's medical school graduation, and I take that oath very seriously. In addition, as a psychiatrist, regardless of how I feel about it, I'm to participate in making mental health assessments of gun owners under New York's SAFE Act, except I can't have a handgun myself. It's unreal, Dr. Young. It's unreal.
Well, it is. Well,
but it's very
New
real,
York
unfortunately. Yeah.
And unfortunately, perhaps more and more places around the country, unless we on our side of the rights issue, get our acts in gear and start getting more aggressive in defending it. That's what we have to do.
Absolutely.
For our part at DRGO, I wanted to update you, too, with our 2adoc.com project, where we are developing a database of healthcare providers nationwide to whom we will be able to refer people who are seeking healthcare providers who don't condemn or disagree with the right to keep and bear arms. We are getting more and more providers. We have lots of people wanting to be referred, and we have, in fact, started to be able to refer a few of them as we find people in geographic proximity. So it's growing. We've been able, with the help of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association and Tom King here, we've been able to publicize it through their magazine. I was very grateful for that. We're working with California to do that, and we keep spreading the word wider and wider. And I certainly appreciate you and your show and the NRA being supportive of our message here.
Absolutely. It's always good talking to you, Dr. Young. And give us that website one more time, if you would, please.
Well, our main website is drgo.us. That's the jumping off point in which you can find all of us, Facebook, Twitter, etc. The specific site, which is accessible from that primary site, is the numeral 2, doc, so 2adoc.com, and that's where the specific information on this project is and where you can sign up for it, either as a provider or as a potential patient. I
got to ask, before we let you go real quick, I mean, we've seen these sort of gun shaming taking place around the country, right? Trying to make people ashamed of being gun owners, of being Second Amendment supporters, of being supporters of the NRA. Are you running into any concern or consternation from some of these pro-2A docs who say, listen, I'm with you in spirit, but I feel really weird putting my name out there?
Yes. In fact, it runs on both sides of the equation, both with docs as well as with patients who contact us. With docs, it's largely people who not only would sign up with this, but who really want to support us, get involved, write, speak, testify, do all the things that we're known for. But they're very afraid that they're going to get professionally, due to professional bias, their careers are going to be hurt. In fact, we have a new article just up this Tuesday called Advice for Young Pro-Gun Doctors, which speaks directly to that subject. A guy wrote us about his son, a new doc who's practicing in California, who's very pro-2A, but very scared to express it. So, yes, we hear about that problem from doctors all the time. The patients, the people who are approaching us to sign up to get referred, almost universally, and there are thousands of them by now, almost universally have experienced this kind of prejudice from doctors, which is why they're motivated to ask for help in referring to somebody who will be understanding and accepting. This problem is a lot more widespread than even we had suspected. So we really want to make this work because a lot of people need that kind of real, personal, individualized understanding from their doctors. That's what we're supposed to be here to do.
Absolutely.
Not politics.
Well, listen, I appreciate, Dr. Young, all the work that you and these other doctors are doing. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today, sir. It's always good talking with you.
Thank you. You too, Cam.
We'll do it again very soon. Dr. Robert Young with the Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, DRGOSAF on Twitter, drgo.us on the internet.